I'm Tycho, and these are Fighting Words. With me in the virtual studio tonight is Sir Urdoch, as usual, and we have a guest as well. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'm Fritz, and I'm a brand new LARPer. Yeah.
So that's
Um,
gonna.
Not quite brand new.
Oh,
yeah,
well,
actually, like about a year old.
of
Yeah,
course,
actually,
at least half that year has been spent shuttered away in our homes, quietly sharpening our foam darts.
yes, on our foam whetstones,
Gotta have a
waiting,
foam whetstone. They're
mm,
vital.
just in case.
So we're gonna do a little bit about how Fritz got into this silly hobby, and we're also gonna discuss a bit on what makes mods work, what makes you actually enjoy being on a mod, and maybe some of the pitfalls that you can try to avoid. Our background today is a picture of the gang getting ready to go on a mod. In theory, we're actually about to get our pictures taken, but it looks like we're going to do something impactful. It was taken by Caitlin Rod at one of the Dead Legends games last year. And so, yeah, Fritz,
Yeah.
why do you do
How'd you,
So
this?
how'd you get involved?
I know, like, I could have just been like a normal D&D player, but then I'm like, no, I'm gonna take it a bit further. Trying to think like why LARP, because I feel like that takes a very specific type of person to get into LARP, and I have a background in acting and improv and also outdoor stuff like mountaineering. So I feel like if you combine those two, you do get a sort of LARP-ish experience. So yeah, so in high school I started out acting and shit. I really liked that. Then I got to college, tried out acting, but they were pretentious and mean. So then I just stuck to my regular old biochemistry. Still was like entrenched in nerd culture, but really not like interacting with it much. Then like senior year, I joined up with the D&D group, had a fucking blast, incredible time. And it really sort of like reawakened that acting like enthusiasm that I really hadn't gotten to do for so long. And I really missed like performing and being a character, stuff like that.
And
Um,
then they invited
and
you to take the next step to make it
no,
real.
no, I was just that was my own. I went on my own. I was like, I want more.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, good. So you weren't
Um,
recruited like straight out of a chick tract.
I was gonna say the Tycho. This is sounding exactly like that Jack Chick Patrick pamphlet. Well, can't talk today.
And then Fritz
no,
went to
no.
the steam tunnels. And I
Oh,
think they made a
oh,
Tom Hanks movie about your LARP story.
yeah, they did. Yep. Yeah. Then they inducted me into a cult, and it was all good and happy. No, I went a googling because I wanted. I don't know. I just wanted more. We weren't really meeting as much for my D&D game, and I was like, "Arr, I gotta scratch that itch. When Googling was like, what are LARPs in the area? And I found Dragon Thrones, which is a blockbuster LARP. And I got myself a ticket as a graduation present, and I should not have done that. That was too much money for a person right out of college to spend. Um, so I went to Dragon Thrones, kind of liked it, but it was because it was my only experience with LARP. I was just happy to play a character and be a weird acting nerd person. Midway through Dragon Thrones, I contracted a very bad infectious disease and had to go to the hospital. So I didn't actually finish my first ever LARP.
These things, they
Uh,
do happen.
they do happen. I went to the hospital dressed as a fucking dragon person. So, yeah, it was good trying to explain that to the nurses and stuff.
I'm not
Going up
even
to them and
gonna.
being like, oh my god. I had to go up to the front desk and I was like, yes, I'm dressed like a dragon person and also I'm hemorrhaging. Anyway, help me.
I can't even consider the number of times that I've either gone to the hospital in garb or had to explain why the person I was bringing to the hospital was in garb. For the
Oh,
longest
thank
time,
God.
anytime something went bad at a practice or an event, I was the one kind of designated to go along because I'm pretty used to hospitals and some people are uncomfortable in them. So if we need a representative from the site to go, they're like, send Tycho. He's not bothered by that sort of thing. Yeah, I've had
Right.
to simplify a lot of stories for a lot of medical professionals.
Yeah, he got bonked with like a foam sword way too hard.
Remember the time when
Oh,
I got the boxer's fracture? I said I think I may have broken my hand, and the intake nurse said, "How did that happen?" I said I was in a sword fight,
what?
and she just said, "Oh, because I was still wearing my lamellar, and so I definitely looked like someone who could have conceivably been in a sword fight. It was plausible."
Yeah, you're right. Huh. I'm glad to hear that I wasn't the only person who went to the hospital in kit because I was feeling real embarrassed. One second. I feel like my,
Sometimes you don't have time to jump in a phone booth.
I
nah.
actually think when I broke my arm the first time, I took the time to take off my gambeson and put on a t-shirt.
That's
Yeah,
because
that's
to
a
wear
good.
your Gambison into a medical facility is probably something that would get you brought up before the Hague.
Oh my god.
That's true. That's true. But I still don't know how I did that other than shock, probably.
A heavy
Yeah,
dose of shock will do that.
Because
it's a hell of a drug.
this was 2 to 3 hours after it had been broken. Um, I was just waiting for it to go away. I thought it wasn't that bad.
It's not that bad. My arm don't work, but you know, it
Well,
happens.
that was the fucked up thing. It did work. It was a
Oh,
nightstick
oh,
fracture. I broke only one of the bones, not both of them.
oh,
So it just hurt a lot, but it it worked.
oh,
That can be
weird.
deceptive.
I can.
So your first experience was understandably subpar, but
Yeah,
obviously you had more than one.
yeah. So after that, I don't know why I kept LARPing after that. I think I was just like want something else more. So then I tried out Dameron. So that's like a I don't know how to describe it.
So
Camp.
Damarung is an emergent style Nordic inspired LARP is the best way to put it, which means it's very rules light and it's almost entirely player driven. There is very little plot that's produced by the game itself. They kind of give you a broad outline and just say go.
Yeah,
And there
I
aren't
think that's
technically
like
NPCs, although it would be hard to judge that based on the behavior of some of the players in season 1.
Yeah,
yeah. So I tried out.
there are no NPCs. Not everyone got that memo.
Nope,
That's the
they
best
did
way to say it.
not. Boy, yeah. So let's see. Oh yeah, so that's actually how I met Urdok because
Hey,
hey, he gave me a ride because I don't know how to drive.
oh my god, I'm just realizing every first LARP experience you have is like fucking terrible because you were in your first car accident when I was
Oh my
driving you to
god.
Dameron
Yeah.
because
Oh, that was
someone
weird.
T-boned me.
Yep. Yep. Weird times. I got into another car accident on my way to Yule as well. You know, Dameron is just cursed for me, I think.
I mean, it fits the setting.
Yeah, it does.
Thematically, it works.
Yeah.
Oh, that was weird. I just remember sitting there and like, I don't know what the fuck to say. I don't know how to react for car accidents, so I just didn't say anything.
Oh, it was super awkward because we'd only met like a half an hour before.
Yep. I think actually you started like going off about Dead Legends, which helped immensely because I didn't want to say anything, but you were like, Dead Legends is really good, and let me just talk about that. So it was great. And that's kind of how I was like, hey, maybe I want to do Dead Legends. Who knows? Yeah. So,
Yeah, we had that was an interesting awkward experience.
oh, I'm so sorry for that being awkward.
No, it's not your fault. Trust me, it's not your fault. You you didn't
I know I didn't do the car
you didn't make me this way.
Oh
I
man.
was awkward before you were born.
You merely adopted the awkward.
uh, yeah, and then like, after that, I'm like, cool, LARP is good. So I just kept doing it.
LARP
Kept
is
going.
good if I could safely get at the site.
Yeah, I could survive.
And for some odd reason, you kept following our suggestions as to what LARPs you should play.
And yeah, what LARPs I should play? Oh, truly.
Okay, so that's the how. I really like that you hit on the idea that like because there is a certain type of person who gets in a LARP.
Well, there's a couple of types.
No, I mean like there's certain characteristics, I should say,
Mhm.
and almost everybody, maybe 20% really don't fall into this, but almost everybody are some sort of nerd, but also physical.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it gets a very eclectic set of like talent groups. um,
I
and it's
see
just
a little less of that in the campaign LARPs. I think in the campaign LARPs is a bit more pure nerd is the most common attribute. And I don't say that to be derogatory in any way, but there's less of a requirement for that pre-existing physicality in some of these other games that we've visited. So
oh
I
it's
I
less
get
of a
like
baseline constant, I think.
yeah,
hmm,
you know you're right, but I still think there's easily 60 to 70% have some. I mean, the idea that you're going to tromp around the woods for a weekend,
Yeah.
you have to have
yeah.
some.
You have to at least like being outside. Yeah.
I was
No,
going to say
Mhm.
I would agree with that.
that's kind of what I meant. So like it could like obviously you get into combat games and battle sports, and yeah, that's going to be like people like me and Quark who played high school sports and college sports, and then we're like, oh, fucking D&D and sports, and yeah, um,
Yeah, rugby plus D&D? Oh, good.
I know, right?
I totally
Um,
forgot that we both played rugby too, so I don't know, through
well,
LARPers play rugby.
my thing was I was a fencer and a rugger, so I was
Hmm.
like I could play rugby with a sword. this
Sword rugby.
this
Tell
is
me
what I was
more.
this is what I was born to do, and I've since decided that's almost literally true. Probably
Yeah,
one of my
I
this is one of my few talents. Hitting people with swords is one of the few things I'm truly inherently good at.
yep.
Okay, but so now talk about what do you like about LARP? What do you like about LARP?
Uh, I think I sort of touched a bit on it like earlier. So like I had an acting background. I was pretty certain when I was in high school that I was going to be like an actress and do that stuff. But then I was like, actually, I'm going to be a biochemist. But I still like acting, and I miss that a lot. And when I got to LARP, I was like, oh, I can still like act, but I don't have to audition and go through all that stress to play a character. So definitely role playing is one of my favorite things.
I
Now,
I will say I love about LARP and LARP acting because LARP acting is a thing. I love
mm,
that it's never inappropriate to choose scenery. Like
to
it's never a bad choice.
what? To chew? To
Like
munch?
to choose to
What?
choose scenery means to like massively overact.
Oh
Um,
my god! I've been doing acting for 8 years and I've like never heard this term. That's crazy.
If you're a fan of Jeremy Irons, you know exactly what chewing the scenery is because he exemplifies the trope.
Favorite.
Ian McShane.
Ian
Mm.
McShane. Ian McShane is like a walking wood chipper every time he gets near a set. Just, oh, is that a piece of scenery? Don't mind if I do.
In certain roles, Glenn Close gnaws scenery like she's a beaver. Um,
Yeah, I
you
can
know,
definitely see that with LARP acting.
yeah, no, it's never inappropriate. It's never
It's
inappropriate to be
not.
like that.
It's kind of great. It's cathartic.
I mean, you can get away without doing it. I'm not much of a scenery chewer myself. But if someone's doing it, I mean, that just makes it easier for me to sneak around. So
Sneaky, sneaky. Trying to think what else. Well, like definitely, like I used to do hiking, but now I don't really have as much time to hike and mountaineer and shit. So now I just go out to the woods and pretend to be a wizard. But also, I get to hike, sort of, and climb things if I feel like it. And then there's also that like semi rugby aspect to it, where I can still do my physical. I can't really tackle people anymore. That was my fear.
We got to get you out to Hearthlight.
I want to tackle people, please.
We're gonna make
Let
Victoria. We're gonna make
we allow
Victoria
that.
Mark II. We're gonna make Victoria Mark II, Tycho.
I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
let
It
me
can be
do a
done.
hit.
What do we need? Basically, a flail
A
and
flail and a power shield.
maybe a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
What?
We trained. I don't think we trained her. I think she just appeared and we handed her gear and she turned into the Tasmanian devil. I don't think we
Interesting.
really had much effect on the outcome of that
No,
process.
No, she followed instructions, but she wouldn't listen to training because she didn't need to. Um, this was a fighter about 6 years ago in Barenheim, um, and I think she had a big family, and I think mostly boys, cousins, brothers, and all that. And she was just one of the most natural fighters I've ever met. And not that she had a ton of skill. Like technically, she did not have much skill. So we just gave her a flail, which is kind of a very easy to use weapon. You just swing the damn thing. Um, but she had great field awareness and great aggression, uh,
Hmm.
but not reckless. It was all measured, and she was just very effective. And the best part about her is she was like 5'3". Um,
Small.
absolute tank of a human being though. Like,
Oh yeah, she fought me single stick with just mask and shirt sleeves at the Battle of the Mire.
yeah, no, she was an absolute tank, like just tough and strong. Um, so people would like plant against her or like think they could run her over, and it would just be like hitting a fire hydrant. like
Hmm.
like you just stop. And yeah, just fast and aggressive and just a very good fighter.
Yeah.
Very effective as a skirmisher. Couldn't hold a line worth a damn. Too aggressive. She had to move too much.
Yeah, well, I
Um,
remember at that battle, watching her during one of the field battles. She started at one side of the field, went to the other, and made her way back. And I think she left something like 7 corpses in her wake.
oh yeah, oh yeah, and it
Huh.
was never a fair fight with her. She would just jump you.
I want to
Like
meet this person. I'm fascinated.
She came out again.
I think she's a doctor now.
What? What?
I'm not,
All right, that gives me hope. I'm like
I'm,
doing grad school. I'm
I'm
like,
not
oh,
sure
I'm
if
gonna
she's
love them.
I'm not sure if she's an MD or PhD, but it's something where I'm like, oh shit, like
You remember though, like she just popped up out of nowhere
yeah,
within like the past year, I think.
yeah.
Huh.
I can't remember where it was. It was at something we ran just out of nowhere. Victoria, hi.
but yeah, so no, we should get you out of
Yeah,
the hard light if you missed the rugby aspect of it.
I
Okay.
really do. That was like that one practice. I think it was in January or something. I
Yes.
really have yet to feel confident as a fighter, except for that one time. I don't know what magic you put on me, you foul mage, you. Literally, all you said was "ruck him," and my brain was like, "Oh, oh, okay, okay,
I
cool. I'm gonna ruck him then. Goodbye,
I know
person."
what that means.
I, j- yes, my language and my
I
brain
was
didn't work, but my body worked.
I was I
Yep.
was I was tapping into training that I knew was there because I'm familiar with the training.
Yep.
And I knew exactly how I played rugby, so I knew exactly how you were going to take that. Um,
Yeah.
Command input processed.
No think. Just keep running forward and yell and be mean, but gently. That was good.
it was good. It was good to see you like because I knew I knew you were overthinking things.
Yeah, that's a terrible trait of mine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's lethal against you in a fight. Uh,
Yeah. I
uh,
know. I'm like trying to go about things like trying to map out stuff in my head, but then the person like who I'm fighting is like they don't they don't have to think. No think. Just hit.
yeah, exactly. No think, only swing.
That's just
Mhm.
ingrained muscle memory, and that just comes with time and practice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just habit, translating habit into practice.
Mhm.
So, in the short time that you were able to LARP before all the lockdowns went into effect and every single LARP everywhere canceled everything forever, um, what would you call your favorite LARP experience so far?
That's I feel like that's really tough because each like event that I've gone to, there's been like some outstanding moment that's
You
one
could
of my favorite. But
so
I
so you
think I
could
have
give us
like
You could give us a top 3 if you want.
Okay. All right. First one was my first Dead Legends. I think I've told you guys about this before, but it really just set me into the scene and solidified the lore and everything for me and my character. Um, so essentially, my character died the first event. Um,
So just to clarify, in case you don't know, Dead Legends is a North American style campaign LARP. It is lethal. It is the most
mm,
lethal game I've ever played in. It's I love it, but it is a highly lethal game.
yeah, expect to die horrifically a couple times in
So
your
I'm
career.
sorry. I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify for the audience. So go ahead.
No, that's good.
These are games
Uh,
we've mentioned, but it was in the context of what we think of you when we see what weapon you're carrying. So we didn't really get into too much detail about the type of game they are.
yeah. So, all right. How did I die? I came into this game with like this squishy like 7 hit point character, no gun knowledge or anything, which is very important for Dead Legends since like everything is out to attack you. Um, just a chemist, just a straight academic person. And it was right after my NPC shift. I just walked back into the saloon. I'm very happy. I had brought like this jug of like cider or something to share with everybody. And this one NPC comes in named Mr. Smith, who's this absolute terrible bastard man, really angry, war driven person. And he does like whatever, some call or something, and makes the entire tavern just start attacking each other. And I don't have a gun on my character, and I didn't really know exactly what was going on. So I just kind of actually, I didn't even have a time to think. Somebody just opened fire on me, 2 shot at me. I'm down because each shot was like four HP or something, and I was a 7 HP character. So down on the ground I went. There were a lot of casualties in there, so all the medics were running around trying to fix people up, and in the little hustle and bustle, my character sort of got overlooked and like went to the end of their death count. Uh,
This is still one of my favorite moments I've ever heard of because
it's
it's just
sad.
such an awesome immersion moment that it's something that could conceivably happen in a story and it makes sense from a plot perspective. Like, oh yeah, the newcomer just comes into town and no one notices until it's too late.
Yeah, then they're dead. So oof, big oof. It was really cool, like listening to everybody literally step over my body. So I'm like, I've been shot. Help. Um, so then I die, and Dead Legends has a really cool death mechanic. I don't know if I want to get too into it because I don't want to. For the new players out there, it's really neat experiencing it firsthand. But you sort of meet a death entity and make a sort of deal. But that I had a really beautiful one-on-one role-playing scene with one of the death entities in this game, and I we had like maybe a 30-minute or so conversation out in the woods, and it was late October, so there was a chill in the air, and it was just lit by a single candle. The leaves were falling, the wind was blowing, and it was just me and this woman wearing a black lace veil, and it truly was a beautiful, like aesthetically beautiful scene. And I got to talk about one of my favorite things to talk about, which is science. Since this character is a chemist, and I am like a biochemist slash microbiology person, I talk about science nonstop. And I got to talk about in character Fritz's rationale for being a chemist. But sort of as it went through, I started to think about my own rationale. So I kind of went out of that game, changed in my own like scientist mentality. So that's sort of a positive lead thing that was going on there, and it was really truly life-changing and beautiful for me. Sorry, I really went deep into that, but I
No,
love
it's
that
fine.
moment so much. It
Thank you
was
for
gorgeous.
thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah. Trying to think. I think the only other one that was one of my favorites was when I was NPCing. Um, when I NPC, I have ADHD, and I just am a fucking feral person. And NPCing is just like I can go balls to the wall, fucking crazy, run around the woods, scream, be a zombie nonsense person. So yeah, it's great. I love NPCing. But this one moment when I was NPCing was really neat. Again, Dead Legends. This time we were out in like central PA, mid January. There was a beautiful snow that day. So there was about like 6 inches of snow on the ground. And I was playing this cannibal type character in a cult. And we were maybe 20 of us who had surrounded the saloon. And we were all going to charge the saloon together. We had these red road flares, so we were just illuminated in red. And the main bad guy was giving this sermon about like, and the beast will consume you all, and it was super spooky. I was just completely feeling it, being a feral cannibal lady, and I got to run around and just bonk people with like this foam wrench. It was great. Not great for the players because they did all end up dead. That was like a total town wipe. But on the outside, as an NPC, walking around that empty saloon, just gloating in my victory. Complete dead silence in the players, just all their bodies. Very spooky. I would not have wanted to be a player in that moment, but as an NPC, really fun. Hmm. I don't know. What else? I think those two moments really stood out for me.
Okay, no, that's fine. Two is fine. So cool. All right, so let's move on to the discussion part of this. So, what makes a mod good?
Hmm.
Um, and just to discuss, a mod is short for the word. It's short for module. And a mod is basically an adventure that most campaign LARPs will generate. And basically, you have players tasked to be NPCs, and it's almost like a D&D. You meet in a tavern thing. They'll provide some sort of hook, something introduce interesting for the players to investigate. Excuse me, or something that forces them to engage. And then the players go on a little adventure, and the
Like,
mod happens. So
hark,
what
young man! There was a dragon. Stuff like that.
exactly? At its simplest level.
The giant
So
rats are eating my pillows.
Oh no! I will give
th-
you 5 gold if you slay these rats.
and then the giant rat is some kid in a black sweatshirt with a felt mask on,
Making rat noises.
with a stupid little brawler.
I thought we were talking about mods that work.
Okay, so what makes a mod work?
Not that.
It's got to be believable. Because I mean,
Yeah.
if one of the things that I think of when thinking about what makes a mod not work is when it's unbelievable, or
Mm.
if it doesn't adhere to the established rules of the universe. And I'm not saying that you can't have like, oh, this is something that's exceptionally weird or exceptionally powerful, but if it's so far outside the bounds of what's been established as how things work here, then it's like I'm playing a different game.
Mm.
So can you give us a for instance maybe?
I can give a negative, for instance.
That's fine.
Okay, so there was some sort of time slip thing that was really prevalent in Dead Legends towards the end of last year, and
Yeah.
for the most part, it was like a side sort of like interactable by choice thing. Like if you really wanted to do it, you could. And the basic idea was that you could take aside a few people and come up with like sort of an AU fanfic of what your characters may have done in an alternate universe, or an alternate timeline. And okay, sure, if you want to sit aside and do a bit of collaborative story time with someone, that's okay. But it didn't have an effect on the rest of the game. And in my opinion, it never should have. What broke things was that at some point they decided, hey, we're just going to start sending out mods full of people from these alternate timelines with no explanation whatsoever. So we had a group of
Okay.
people who were running away from something. Like these people keep trying to kill us and we don't know why. And we catch the people trying to kill them and they tell us, well, they're deserters from the army. The Civil War's still going on, which it isn't. It literally is not in the world of the game going on at all anymore. It's over. The Civil War is over. It's several years past. Um,
It's 20 years past.
yeah, like it's been
Yeah.
a minute since we fought the Civil War in game. But these people are absolutely sure that it's still going on, and those people over there are deserters, and the people over there have no idea what they're talking about. Now you would think that maybe one group is lying and the other isn't. No, they're both telling the truth. They're both absolutely certain they're telling the truth. The difference is that they're from different time streams and really shouldn't have ever been interacting with each other at all. Uh, and
It
so
was really confusing.
well, it was confusing because none of the rest of us had any interest in interacting with this time stream stuff.
Yeah, it was only for like a set group of players.
So I think a way to put this would be your players should not have to go. Players should not have to go on on a mod just because if they don't go, they won't have anything to do. Like
Yeah.
there should be an in-character reason to hook the players, and that should be fairly, that is it. But you're right, it is something that works. Because just thinking back to Dead Legends, I'm trying to remember what. Um, okay, so an example of a mod that worked from my first Dead Legends game. It's that same mechanic that got you, Fritz,
Oh boy.
where people get bloodlusted and just start attacking whatever's near them. And I can't remember the status call, but it's like, for 30 seconds you attack anything that's near you. And you had someone who's they're an NPC, but they're walking around and they're wearing a band that indicates that they're basically supposed to be ignored. It's kind of, you know, a conceit to the idea of stagehands, just to communicate things in a game where that's outside and you can't really do that. So you have people who are just you're supposed to ignore them. Like what was it in the traditional Japanese theater? The guys,
Uh,
the guys,
They would just wear black.
they would just wear black, and it was just understood they're not there in the context of whatever's happening. Okay,
mhm.
they're holding up a rain cloud on it that's actually the piece of wood on a stick, but they're not there. The cloud's just floating around. Whatever. You can't do that in LARP. So you have someone, if they're in orange, ignore them. So the NPC walks through a crowd, and just every third person they whisper to, and it just erupts in a chaos, and it becomes
God damn.
this whole mod, for very little effort, that was very engaging. Now you couldn't do it. Would be bullshit if that happened all the time.
Mm.
Like if that was something that happened like every Wednesday, every Saturday at 5 o'clock. Oh, here comes the asshole fairy. Like, gonna sprinkle some butthole dust on everybody and make them shoot each other. Like that gets crappy. That gets boring. But like taken on its own, especially as a new player,
Mm.
and like I downed someone. I downed Mellifera actually.
Oh my god, no! No! Oh my god!
Well, he was being efficient. You always shoot the healer first.
And it was just I wasn't even being it wasn't even being efficient. But Mellifera was just the closest one to me, and I had my gun in my hand, so I just slam fired 2 shots into her back, and then think I shot at someone else, and then I got clubbed unconscious, and
Murdoch.
I think maybe someone shot me.
Oh
But just the interaction and the drama it generated, and the tension of how do we stop
no.
this without killing our friends, was
Hmm.
just a lot of fun, and it was just a really great way to, you know, it's an immediate crisis that you need to deal with.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's important, the simplicity aspect of it. Um, an immediate crisis that everybody can relate to, not just a specific subset of players.
Well, also tying it back to my original point is that if I recall correctly, not only was that an efficient mod, but when it was traced back to its point of origin, it made sense given the established lore of the world. It was something that
Mm,
that if you knew all the factors, this outcome was to be expected.
yes, it was, because I think it was connected to Queen Mab.
Yeah, it was someone playing silly games with fairies, which they should not have done.
oh my
Um,
god.
yes.
Ooh,
Yes,
I think the character in question was Irish, so they definitely should have known better.
they should have known better, but they didn't, and they fooled around, and we all found out.
that's
And
what I
Um,
walk around and find out.
I think that's another important factor is that when you find out what's been going on, it should come as an aha, not a wait, what?
yeah,
Yeah,
it should not be a
yeah.
Because I know when that deserters plotline was resolved, which occurred simultaneously to the that person kidnapped my daughter. Oh wait, no, that's my daughter from another timeline who married that guy 3 years ago, and I don't even remember how that plot was supposed to make sense. But there were two mods going on at the same time within rocks throwing distance of each other that both involved two parties telling different stories because they were both from alternate timelines. There was
Mm,
no aha moment there. Like I
uh,
asked someone afterwards, I'm like, so wait, did we figure out what happened? They're like, oh yeah, they were from alternate timelines. I'm like, well, that's dumb. I'm going back to my cabin.
I think I walked out of the reveal on that one because there was just so much crosstalk, and I was so lost and did not understand what
yeah,
was going on, that I'm just
I
like, out.
I truly did not interact with almost any of that plot that weekend. There's nothing there for me. I was confused. Lots of talking, lots of bullshitting.
But like, so like, and the easiest way to do it, the easiest way to get players interested in the plot for its own sake, is just to throw rewards at them.
Mm,
Um, that's a classic easy way to do it, but it works. It still works, and it's actually fun because, especially in a game like Dead Legends, but in any game it works. You could have your players take a deal and you know have the person who they're dealing with be a complete shitbag and just set them up to do something awful. And they're just like, yeah, you just said you'd do this thing. You said you'd go kill everyone over there. So get to it. Um,
mm.
It's a
uh,
very Grecian approach.
yeah. But that is important, just to have some buy-in and have some way of the players just connecting to it, and like, even if it doesn't work and there's not that much that goes on, like, um another Dead Legend story, uh when Saturday of my first game, Sheriff Dobbs comes into the saloon, and there's a farmstead that has been like destroyed, and she needs people to investigate. So, four of us go to investigate. None of us have any investigation skills. So this is a complete waste of time, but we have a decent time just like poking around and like, pretending to be a bunch of dumb cowboys who just like, you know,
Oh my
you,
god.
just fucking up every clue, and just like,
Well, and this was, if I remember correctly, the origin of the puppy feet meme.
this was the origin of the puppy feet meme.
Because
No.
she leads us to this cabin and tells us that the crops had been trampled by what looked like dog footprints. And so we arrived and there's just nothing wrong at all. So I'm just pacing around, muttering in a German accent, poking at the windows to see if they've been broken. And the farmer's like, yeah, no, I already cleaned everything up, but yeah, it looked like a dog stepped on my corn.
And Sheriff Dobbs said the word puppy at some point because that's what I grabbed on.
And
She said the word puppy, and immediately I seized on it because you
yeah,
can't let that go. You just can't let
again
that
and
go.
again. It's somehow it's the funniest phrase that I ever heard. I was not on that mod. I never encountered this puppy feat, yet I still chuckle every time.
I think that may have also been the event where we sat outside, looked up at the stars, and started naming constellations after entities from the Gap.
It is that same. It is
Yeah.
that same. It is that same event.
Wait, actually, I did encounter the real puppy feet, who is one of the entities in Lazarus Gap, and he's a bastard.
Yes.
He deserves the name. Fuck puppy feet.
I think he called us monkeys.
He did.
Yeah, he called us monkeys.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, you should come into the woods with me. And I'm like, you're covered in fur. I don't think so. And then there was some other player down by the tavern who was like, who's up there? We're like, I don't know, some guy covered in fur. He's like, oh yeah, you should follow him into the woods. I said, I'm gonna come down there and stab you next.
Yeah, it was like, oh, so why don't you go follow him into the woods? And the guy's like, nah. And we're like, all right, well, we're not doing
like,
doing
well, I
this.
see you understand our reasoning.
Like, this is not even being genre savvy. Like, this is just like
Being
no, you
logical.
Like, this isn't I've seen this movie before. This is that man has a fox head and wants me to follow him into the woods. I say thee, sir, nay.
I don't think so. No, fuck that. I remember Ed talking to my character Fritz. All I remember, it sometimes pops into my head. I just hear Ed say, "Call me an ape." Think about that. Call me an ape.
He did.
Yep.
Called Ed Martian ape.
Yeah.
So then we started calling him Puppy Feet because if you're gonna call us ape, hell, we'll call you names
We'll
too.
call you Puppy Feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no. The best part is, as we were walking back into the saloon. So this all happened like 50 feet outside of the saloon. What had happened was we'd seen somebody, or we'd seen some movement, and
I saw him like out the window, and I was like, "Hey,
yeah,
let's go scout."
coming from an airsoft paintball battle games background, like, you don't let motherfuckers sneak around.
If he doesn't want me to see him, I want to see him.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, we're thinking we're gonna go and beat up a bandit. I don't fucking know. And then this asshole, shows up.
Like, that is way too many beads and way too much hair for me to want to deal with right now.
Yeah, it's just like, this is a big pile of nope. And I give it my name because I'm a fucking idiot, and then I try to lie about it, and I was so bad at lying.
No.
He still doesn't know who I am, I don't think.
No. And then he called us apes, and then the other guy was like, "Go with him," and we're like, "Get fucked."
It was only later that we realized that most of the town seems to have a rather Damarungian relationship with Puppy Feet. Like, oh, let's go see how he's doing. Hello there, Puppy Feet. Lovely afternoon. Would you like to come? I'm going to go stab him. Why are you trying to be friendly? He wants to eat you.
Well, no. The whole point of involving the rest of the town was we didn't want to go anywhere near him.
Well, no, this was a different encounter. Like, hey, so Puppy Feet's over there. And like, oh, let's go say hello. Wait, no, stop. I don't think you heard me.
No. That's exactly the encounter I'm thinking about. The reason I was getting other townsfolk was because I didn't want to deal with his bullshit. I wasn't going to go anywhere near him.
Here, you want to give somebody plot? Give it to somebody else. I'm
yes,
busy.
Exactly.
Like, that is a whole ass furry just chilling in the woods, and you're just okay with that? Like, there was some like spiritual stuff going on or whatever, and Puppy Feet showed up. And Fritz, of course, was like, "What the what? Hey, guys, the fucking furry." Not in those words, of course. And the town was like, "Oh yeah, that's just our friend. He's visiting us. It's cool." What the fuck is that?
He's not your friend. He creates fucking werewolves.
That's like
Yeah.
He turned LaFinn into a raccoon.
the very
Yeah.
first event.
I don't know how he's anyone's friend.
I forget if it was Mima or one of the doctors, but the very first event, I'm standing in the middle of town. My character is a German academic fencer. I don't carry guns. I have a sword and a dagger that I carry. So I'm standing in the middle of town, just relaxing. It's a nice night, and a werewolf attacks me. So I cut it down because werewolves use like those 12-inch brawlers that Ray and I talked about in the last episode, and they're not gonna beat me on the reach game. So I knock it down. I'm like, okay, so now what? And a minute later they get back up. I knocked him down again. And a minute later they get back up. So I just adopt a tactic whereby I stand above them, and every 50 seconds I deliver a blow to the back of the skull with the knuckle bow of my cutlass or of my saber, and I keep yelling to the hospital like, so do you have a plan for this person, or do you expect me to stand here and render them unconscious for the rest of the night? And after the third time, when I didn't get an answer, I just like knocked them unconscious one last time and walked off. Someone else can do it.
Someone else, bro.
Meemaw probably ate someone that night. I don't care.
That was Meemaw.
It was either Meemaw or a doctor. I didn't get a name because they were just trying to eat me and not doing very well.
It was probably Doc Cutter.
I think that's correct.
Meemaw doesn't leave her porch.
So then, yes, it was probably Doc Cutter, and I kind of beat the crap out of Doc Cutter a few times before I decided to just club them in the head before they had a chance to get up.
Yeah, like because it's Doc Cutter, Meemaw, Robichaux, Say, and
this is good to know.
Oh, spoiler alert. And now Joe Black are the werewolf.
The man who carries a wolf-themed broadsword.
And all of and out of all of them, I would least like to deal with Say as a werewolf. Because that he knows how to fight.
Also, I think he can use that sword in wolf mode. I can't imagine why. Well, because I don't think they turn into strict wolves, do they? Or do they? I don't know how it's meant to work. I just know that they start growling, and I think some of them put on like a fur mantle or something.
It's actually kind of up to the player how much of a transformation they go through.
So yeah, I mean, for all we know,
if they do the costuming, they get extra abilities.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe he turns into like a hybrid form where he still has opposable thumbs, and that just sounds like the last thing I want to deal with because I get a lot of mileage out of the fact that every single monster uses claws.
But yes. So I think it was just that event that the werewolf thing got out of hand because like having 5 people. Well, the issue wasn't even the werewolf thing. It was the nonchalance of the rest of the town about the werewolf thing.
Oh yeah.
Which again goes back to immersion and verisimilitude. If something happens that's so like this doesn't make sense.
Like this is a mortal threat. Like no, they're turning into wolf monsters that want to rip us to pieces.
If I didn't have a 38-inch saber, I might be dead right now. But I do, so I'm not. But none of the rest of you do, and I see how bad you are at ammo conservation. So does anyone else have an idea? Because I'm not going to stand here all night.
Yeah. They are bad at ammo conservation. That's what killed them when we town wiped.
Oh, if they just blew through ammo?
Yep. If you two were there, it would have been a different story. Hands down.
Well, I carry a prodigious amount of ammo.
Yeah, you had a whole ass statue.
Yeah. Yes, I know. I believe, and there is no such thing as too much firepower. um,
This is
there
a
are some
very
very there are some very sound principles of attack that I adhere to, and they serve me well. And one of them is the ammo is only a problem if it becomes an encumbrance, and I could deal with encumbrance very, very well. So
Especially since we're talking about Nerf Mega Darts, which aren't even all that much heavier than standard darts.
it's just a purely the physical footprint of it, to be honest. And it's a satchel that hangs off my side. So just wait till I get one of the one of the rival gun, well, not the rival, the yeah, no, the rival
Yeah, the
balls.
rival. Yeah, no,
Yeah, wait till I get one of those. I'm gonna carry like 500.
you're basically
Uh,
gonna have a beanbag on your hip.
oh yeah, pretty much. Apparently they make speed loader, like people are 3D printing speed loaders because of course they are.
I
oh my
believe it.
god.
I actually
And
had Sousa 3D print me a custom shell for the break action shotgun.
nice.
Oh.
And I'm very tempted to get the 3D printed speed loaders, but it would be a shitbag move. Um,
Mm.
it would be a shitbag move. It would be very out of genre, and
We're not going for Jerry Michalik numbers here.
yeah, yeah. So it's but yeah.
Welcome to Dead Legends, brought to you by Terran Tactical.
So anyway, going circling back, that is another element of making a mod work, that you can't throw the same things out there until they get, oh, excuse me, it's not even the same things. Threats have to be serious, and by that, not even threats necessarily, but there needs to be a real fail state. Like
Yeah. Yep.
there needs to be an actual consequence if you fuck this up. And
Yeah.
actually, it actually works better depending on the game if there is a consequence for the NPC,
Hmm.
because the player characters can usually weasel their way out of consequences. Like unless you're playing, an event where it's where you have a very aggressive attitude towards, player death, even more aggressive than Dead Legends on a standard day, maybe about the level of the aggression on the Halloween day. Um, like, yeah, it's you're not always going to be able to threaten player characters with serious consequences. You could absolutely threaten NPCs and really just play on the player's guilt, and
Yeah.
like
Oh, that works.
I love mods where if you fuck up, you killed this NPC's family. Good job, boys.
Yeah, I kind of I here's an example that I now remember. I was playing an NPC who was like infected with this fungus that turned them into a zombie slowly. And as I was playing this NPC, I sort of was trying to build up a character that they would feel sympathetic towards. And they killed my character because he slowly turned into this awful zombie. But they didn't just kill an NPC; they killed a father of two, a husband, and I got a really tragic but good response. And I think it was a small, tiny little mod, really just a role playing mod, but I think it set in for me and it set in for the players around me.
Well, those I don't discount those things. Those are the moments that pull a game together.
Mm,
Like the small moments are the moments that really pull a game together and make it an experience. So like just Damarung, like all the interactions, Tycho, you and I had when we were in the Crownlanders castle,
Yep.
like just all those little experiences just added to the game world and just
Well, and
added to the sense we were there.
not even with the archer, because those were all great. But even like some of the stuff I did on the side, like when they started breaking into the tower downstairs, and I I was like manhandling the human guards and demanding to know who was in charge because there were enemies breaking into their own castle and they hadn't realized it yet. And then when I realized that you guys had all gone out the front gate and had Banshee pop smoke for an exfil, I was the only troll still left inside the castle. So I went all the way to the rear gate and I grabbed the closest human I could find and I put him up against the wall. I said, "I am leaving now. When I am gone, you will close this door and lock it. And then I just left.
That's great. Just a tiny little roleplay moment. It's really good.
Yeah, and just like those are the moments that build a setting. So I think that's great that they put in that LARP where the players had to make this, had to make this choice between trying to continue to save this person or just killing them.
Yeah.
Um, but that's a really good example of it done well.
I think a fail state is very important because if you run too many mods that don't have a fail state, even the possibility of a fail state, because the characters are going to win most of the time in most of the games we've played. Dead Legends is an obvious exception because they're a little bit more free with the lives of the player characters. But we've definitely been in other games where it's just a given that the
That the
players are going
players
to
are going to
win.
win. Yeah.
So much
Uh-huh.
so that when they make like consecutive terrible choices, whether tactically, logistically, or even like in terms of like this isn't a logical action for your characters to take, there's no repercussions. I actually went off script at one of these games because we're told, yeah, do like a rollback where you go out and you fight them as little guys, and then you spawn a little further away, and they'll follow you, and you kind of like breadcrumb them back. Well,
Hmm.
but they didn't. They would just like pop up. Oh, look, there's little bad guys here. Haha, fight them all. Oh, look, there's more little bad guys here. Fight them all. We're not going to follow them though. We're just going to stand here in town and wait for them to come to us because we know they have to. And after like 4 times of that, and everyone was like, "This is dumb. We don't want to do this fight anymore." I called everyone off and I said, "All right, so they told us to breadcrumb them, but since they didn't come, I'm gonna go back and tell the person in charge that the PC's failed and that whatever threat he's been dreaming up, he's gonna have to, turn that
Oh.
up to 11 now because they didn't follow up on it."
Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean, it just changes the behavior when players have a sense that there isn't going to be consequences, and it kind of takes
Mm.
a lot out. I've
Well, and it
found.
makes it more draining on the NPCs too, because if you know that you're literally just a speed bag, um, the game's
Hmm.
not really all that fun. You might get some good fights in still, but you know you're jobbing like 100% of the time. If there's the
Hmm.
possibility that the characters might lose, you can still have that like, aha, so if they don't catch up or if they don't pick up on what's going on here, you know, you get a little bit of a win out of it. Whereas normally in those sorts of games, you never do, and it's not expected that you ever will, and that gets kind of after a while.
Yeah. I think as a separate topic, it's important to give your NPCs a win state. Like, give your NPCs something where they can feel successful at. That's not just, oh, make the players look good. No, give them a goal to accomplish.
And it doesn't even have to be anything that'll lead to a direct fail state on the part of the PCs either, because when they told us to go out as bandits, but as smart bandits, and that escape and evasion was an option, I grabbed onto that. That was great. First we were doing like door breaches and stuff, and that was crazy. We cleared a couple of cabins, and then we nearly took the hospital, which no one thought we could do. Uh,
Oh.
the only reason we didn't was because someone from coming back from some other mod happened to show up and started lobbing dynamite at us like it was beads at Mardi Gras. If it wasn't for that, I'm confident we might have actually taken the hospital. But then after that, we all kind of scattered and went evasive. And yeah, I actually managed to get away. I escaped. I made it back to the base. It was a little unclear as to what the victory state was, but the fact that we were allowed to not just throw ourselves onto the first grenade we saw to make someone else look cool, that made it a lot more fun to be an NPC at that time.
Well, just I remember at the other event when we NPC'd like bandit/beggars.
Yes. Yep.
And like we cleared out like 2 or 3 buildings and just ransacked them. Just like we came back with a fistful of items, like a fistful of item cards. Because we just like we ransacked the church, we ransacked the hospital. I think we got a cabin too.
We did get
Yeah.
one, and then the other cabin had someone in it when we were like setting up to go check it out. he was out in the porch, and so we're like, oh yeah, we're really hungry. Do you have any food? And I think he gave us like some apples
and
and
some beef jerky.
yeah,
And I
like
think he gave us like some in-game money too. I think he gave us like $1.
so we just kind of like hung out far enough away that he didn't feel threatened, and he came and brought us some food while someone covered us from the porch. We were just like, yeah, no, we're just really hungry. Do you have anything? We're not gonna ransack your cabin if you weren't here. And he talked about wendigos and things that crawl on ceilings, and then we're like, thanks for the apples, bye.
Sounds great.
but
Free food in your NPC mod? Hell yeah.
but the thing is, and that kind of thing has a lot of minor fail states for the characters, because
Mm.
absolutely, if we caught someone out on their own, we would have rolled them.
And we had done that before in previous bandit runs. I remember I was leading a bandit group up into the woods towards the mine, and someone was coming back down from the woods, and I did a tooler drill on him where I came up to within maybe like a couple yards away. I said, "Are you okay with physical roleplay?" And he said, "Yeah." And as soon as the period on the sentence was out of his mouth, my hand was on his collar and my knife was in his ribs.
Oh.
And then we took his wallet. We didn't take the whole thing. I think we like flipped because it was actually a really cool system, and it made me appreciate item cards more since I've seen them used rather clumsily in other games. But I really liked how they're used here. And he had like a little like business card photo album looking thing as his
Oh
wallet.
yeah.
So like he could flip through. It's like, oh yeah, here's my ores, here's my lumber, here's my shrooms or whatever. And I think we took like a couple of things of iron or whatever, and then someone like thumped him in the head, and we left him there unconscious. But yeah, honestly, anytime I'm a bandit at Dead Legends is fun because I just sort of switch genres, and now all of a sudden I'm playing Rainbow Six, and it's the greatest. I'm playing Rainbow Six with usually either a 4-shot pistol or I pick axes a lot. I grab axes and dynamite whenever I'm allowed to. So yeah, that makes it fun.
But yeah, just like just having things that could go sideways for the players that just make their lives harder. And I know we've
Yeah.
been harping on Dead Legends, and the thing is, we're doing it because Dead Legends does it really well.
Well, we're also doing it because Dead Legends has mods. I was actually waiting for a good segue, and that I'm going to use that as the segue. Let's talk about some of the player run. I don't even know if I'd call them mods, but some of the player run like plots and stuff that we've done at Damrung because there's
Mm.
definitely good stuff at Damrung. It's just we don't tend to think of it as mods or plots because it's all or almost all entirely player driven because there are no NPCs. So it's a little bit of a different system, but there's definitely good stuff at Damrung.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
My
Just in case
favorite.
anyone thinks that we're like focusing on Dead Legends because we like it more, maybe, maybe not. But we're actually more focusing on Dead Legends because it just has the most examples of this sort of thing.
Yeah. Just my favorite Damrung moment. Oh, one of them. There were actually I have a lot of favorite Damrung moments, but my favorite Damrung conflict moment was still when we when we had the confrontation with the Kern.
I knew that was it.
Uh, so to frame this story and why this worked, because this worked for a bunch of reasons, and it's really an example of things coming together and players cooperating. And this is kind of a prime example of how play to lift should work, because I don't think anyone left that feeling like they lost.
No.
So anyway, so Tycho and I at Damrung we play Jotunar. Jotunar are a grab bag of trolls, Urukai, beast folk, Warcraft, like you name a troll race in Western fantasy, and it's represented. And so we were playing this mini game where we needed to protect this shrine. And every hour that we held this shrine, we could add another candle. And it was supposed to do something. I'm sure it did something. I don't know. But anyway, we were holding this thing, and it became very important to us because it's just kind of the thing that those kind of the things that we get fixated on.
We base most of our scenarios off of TF2 modes for a reason. We all about that point hold. All about pushing the cart.
and, and frankly, we also had decided that that entire road belonged to us, and that was
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and it was
Oh my
it was a matter of it was a matter of personal pride to make sure that nothing happened on that road without us having something to do with it.
Yep. Especially since there was like a resource point on that road.
You
Ugh.
mean our resource point on our road? I'm sorry, human. Was that inconvenient for you?
Just give me the fucking green piece of cloth, god damn it.
It's the principle of the thing.
Oh, that was so good though.
So anyway, the idea was that this shrine was sacred to 3 out of the 4 cultures at Damarong, and you wanted to hold it and you wanted to make sure the other people didn't get to do it because yeah, magic is a finite resource, whatever. These are not faiths that play nicely with others. So we get I did we get word that a big bunch of people were coming?
I think we got screamed that a bunch of people were coming.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think someone literally shouted at us that because I remember the first part of this was us running around grabbing every troll we could get our hands on.
Yes. I don't remember if it was Banshee who sounded it or not. That may have
It
been one of the times when she just let the entire campground know that there was an issue developing.
I don't know who else it would be.
Someone may have come running for us, but I think it's far more likely that Banshee
It was
just
just Banshee
screamed.
Maybe.
and
My
she's a whole
my character is like being kind of sneaky spy like, but I don't think I remember warning you guys about that.
No, it wasn't you.
Yeah.
It was either Banshee or another troll. But anyway, so so we grab a mob of people. I think we had probably 16 to 18.
It was a good number.
We had a lot of people. And here come the Kern, and they've got a lot of people. They actually had more than us, but the thing is, they had a lot of non-combatants who like didn't even have any weapons.
They have a lot of druids and harpists and poets and cooks.
Yeah,
a lot of cooks.
lots of cooks. So the head druid comes out and asks us, basically, can they go up this path? And we're like, no, fucking no, just go away.
Fuck off.
Nobody goes on our path.
Yeah.
And then the little vizier was like, "Well, will you pay us?" And then Urdok and I start screaming, "No, absolutely no!"
No. Here's what happened. So, the head druid is making trying to get. I'm speaking for the orcs right now, or the trolls, because I'm the war leader, and he's trying to negotiate with me. I'm never going to budge on this, but he's offering me, oh, I'll pay homage. Oh, here's money. Blah blah blah. And then I can't remember what their character's name is. Whatever, the holder. They're a holder. They play a holder. What's up?
Lawson?
Lothan, yeah.
Lothan, yes.
So Lothan comes in and says, "Oh no! They gave King Vandal, who is the titular head of the troll faction, they gave King Vandal a coin so they could pass." And Tycho and I just look at each other and we just go, "No."
Heresy is not a financial transaction.
Yeah. And then every time Lothan tries to speak, I just shout, "No!" And eventually it becomes a chant, and then I'm just like, okay, I guess we're doing this now. And I start ordering the trolls in a battle line. Getting the shields in the middle, pole arms on the side. I'm just gonna do horns of the bull, real classic shit. And then the head druid comes out with this fucking he's doing the Horns of Power.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, we did not have any Mysticers. So he
Well,
the
there
way
was also a special effect that weekend too, wasn't there, where a certain holy symbol could drive us back?
that was Crownlanders, not for Kern.
Oh, right. That was Juvites, I think.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was Juvites. Yeah, but we didn't have any Mysticers. We didn't have anyone who could do that. So the rule in the game is you give them at least 10 seconds of role play, and it is up to you if you want to give them more, and that you can base that off of how their performance goes. So the effect is a fear effect. Basically, it basically works like to keep 10 feet away from the person. So the lead druid starts to do this, and we slowly kind of back up, forming this little bubble around them. And they kind of walk through us in this bubble of power. And I think there's some secondary druids behind on the back, making sure we're not
There
getting
weren't
them
at
from.
first. They were next to him. They were like bolstering him as he
Oh,
pushed through.
yeah.
And then as
Hmm.
soon as he was past, I started nipping at their heels with my lance and started
Oh,
throwing
yeah.
shots at the people in the rear who were just like, "Oh, great, that worked. Now we're through. Oh wait, why is that scary looking green guy grinning at me?" And
So I'm gonna. You have to take us over for a second. I'm gonna step away for a minute.
so I start nipping at their heels, and a few of the other Jotnar join in because there's no one in the back to keep us off. So that's when the secondary druids kind of circled around to the back, kind of as a rear guard, and so we just kind of shadowed them all the way through. And I guess they decided, rather than try and contest the point, which I don't think they had the power to do that and keep us off their backs at the same time, they just
Hmm.
went past us and hung out in the trees past the shrine. What we found out later was that their faction had earned like a miracle or something through like one of the side games, and
Oh.
rather than try to fight us over the shrine, they spent their miracle to make a second shrine in the woods so they wouldn't have to fight us. Um,
Oh.
and you could argue the wisdom of that. They probably could have gotten a lot more from the miracle, but they would never have gotten to do their ritual if they hadn't done that, because there was no way on earth that their force was gonna. Because if they had tried to hold it, we would have had time to send for a Mysticer, and that would have evened out the power struggle, the
Hmm.
battle of wills, as it were, and would have let all the martial Jotuns just go to town on what was essentially an underarmed force of human day laborers.
Well, I was never gonna let him get to the actual shrine with that bullshit.
Well, and they didn't go for it either.
No. My plan had been if they actually tried to push on the shrine, I think it would be completely fair for, given my character's in universe fanaticism and fervor that is, I promise, equal to anyone on the Kurnish faction's fervor. I could promise that you're.
I think more than a little bit.
I was gonna say
This
not
man will fuck your shit up.
not many are gonna come close to how fervent Daruk is.
Dear God, no.
um, but yeah, if they had pushed us all the way back to the shrine, I would have shaken off the effect, and we would have had it. We would have had it out on the lawn.
Mm.
Would have had a Donnybrook right there.
There would have been a Donnybrook right there on the lawn. But they didn't. They went around, and mission accomplished. And like, honestly, to me, it's like, this is you forfeiting. Like, you gave up, you forfeited, I've won, mission accomplished.
You burned your wild card on please don't make me fight the Jotun. And
So
that is a valid use of the trump card in that scenario.
in that
Like I
scenario,
said,
yeah,
it would have ended badly.
no, we had a lot of combat power. We would have, that would have been a
Mm.
short and nasty fight. And that would have been like Aleppo. That would have been like Caesar at Aleppo. Just surround and just start stabbing, and then get to the squishy parts in the middle.
Squishy druids.
Just like at Aleppo, actually.
Oh, oh no.
We are talking about a Gallic culture, not Celtic culture, but
Yeah, they still had druids.
Iron Age Europe. It's
Something analogous.
not
Yeah.
that different.
So yeah, while technically that wasn't, a, I guess you could call it a module, but it wasn't like what you would traditionally think of
It
as a
wasn't
module.
planned. It
Right.
wasn't scripted.
Yeah.
No
They
one
knew.
was sent out from NPC land with orders to go make funny hand gestures at the trolls and make them walk backwards for a few dozen yards.
So let's talk about what worked for that. Let's talk about what worked there. What parts of that came together well?
If it had been anyone but the head druid doing it, I don't think we would have been obligated to give as much ground as we did. So the fact that that's who was doing it, again, goes back to my immersion and verisimilitude argument. He he was the person who it would make sense to do that.
Mm.
Also considering the composition of their force, yeah, absolutely. Don't try to fight the trolls. That's a terrible idea. If you
Uh,
have another way to get things done, use that.
Yeah.
and he sold the hell out of it.
Yeah,
Like he sold that this was an effort of will. Like
Oh, that's cool.
this process took a while. Like walking through this took a long time, and he played like this was physically taxing for him. So I did not mind role playing for that.
Oh, that's really cool. Huh. I like that like each type of player sort of has a role in that mod. Like sometimes I don't know, I always notice it's either fighters get to do the fun thing or like healer wizardy people do that, but sort of both in equal amount have equal say in the thingy
the
mod.
purpose his fighters served in that encounter was to make it so that we didn't just mulch them instantly on the road. Because for most of our fighting careers, force preservation has also been high in the priority list.
Hmm.
So we tend to try and not throw people into the grinder if we don't have to. And he had just enough people under arms to make it not a let's just butcher these sheep and be done with it. It was this will be a fight, a short fight, but we want to, make certain of our footing before we start swinging. So he had enough people under arms to buy him enough time to do his little sign of the cross to us.
And frankly, it was obvious from the way they set themselves up and the way they approached us. And this is something that is important to keep in mind in a player-driven game, like Damarang is. They weren't looking for that. They did not march out of their fort looking for a battle.
No.
Hmm.
They had an escort, but this was not a war party. So it's like, okay, if this is not a war party, I'm not gonna start shooting.
Yeah.
And also, given the background of the faction at the time, it would have been odd for them to be able to raise a war party, let alone for them to be sending them out.
Yeah, but they could have dressed up all their peasants as fighters. Throw weapons at them.
Sure.
That would
Well,
have been.
but that's what I mean in that nothing that the Kerns had done to that point indicated that they had the temperament or the I guess desire to operate in that way.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So
So
for them to suddenly just press an arming sword into the hands of everyone who had previously been wielding ladles and flutes, it would have been a bit jarring.
it would have been very out of character. So they clearly wanted something, and it's like, okay, let me see what this is. Let me explore my options before I just mash X to get through the cutscene and start swinging again.
Like allow like alternative tactics to be used.
Just to see what they're going to say. Like that's really what it is. I'm just curious. What are you going to say? What are you going to say? Because you might offer me something more interesting than kicking your ass. Probably not, but you never know. And
I mean,
like
we do that like all the time. So if you can give us a bit of variety, sure, we're all about that.
and
Yeah.
and and like I said earlier, you're at LARP to overact and to be ridiculous. So, you know, if you were rolling up onto barbarian Vincent Price and his horde of, 1950s white guys, in really racist makeup pretending to be Huns, he'd find out what you want before he fucking sent his guys to attack you.
Another thing that I really liked about that whole interaction was the knock-on effects it had in the Jotnar faction, where certain members were revealed to be a bit more mercenary and a bit less ideological than the rest of us.
Well, that
Um,
that in the faction was a very interesting power play or
yes.
power interplay because we basically bullied our way into dominance by just feeling more strongly about it than anyone else. And I bet they could have bribed. I bet, but if I had to bet, I'd say between a half and 2/3 of the ONR players would have been open to a certain level of flattery or bribing to allow them through.
I think if you and I hadn't been there, the bribe would have gone through.
Yeah,
Because
I think they might have held out for a little bit more,
well, sure, they
but
would have haggled over it.
yeah, but
Um,
they probably would have gone through.
yeah.
But it was just an interesting dynamic when you have two people who are just stridently reminding you of the prophecy that was dropped down from on high, you know, 3 in-game months ago, and what that said about, what's going to happen to everything, and reminding you that you're here to fucking fight.
Well, and
Um,
when one of them is the declared war leader of the faction, and the other is said declared war leader's pet shadow monster.
yeah, it was fun and intense, and it was really fun and really freeing to play that level of fanatic. That
Yeah.
just level of utterly uncompromising. Like, I don't care what the consequences are at all. It's not even a factor. Like, because Ed can be strident, but Ed Marsh is my Dead Legends character. Ed Marsh is always doing the math. He might decide that a very high price is worth paying, but he's still doing the math. Duruk doesn't do math. There is no calculus. There is the will of the gods, and that's not only dropped the you know weighed down on that side of the scales. That's driven that side of the scales into the sub basement.
Mm.
You're not
For
going to balance that out.
just no think. No think. Just God.
But will this bring about the downfall of man? Yes or no?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Um and but yeah, so it's was good because it spurred that internal conflict in the troll faction. I wish I knew about how it went over in the Kernish faction because that'd be interesting to find out. And I don't really know. But the Kerns still got to accomplish their goal. And the Jotunar still got to feel mean and scary. And that
Well,
we got to win. We
we
did
also
our
accomplished our goal because we maintained the shrine. They
yeah,
got to walk on our road, but they had to make do with a secondary site because you, there was no way on earth they were going to force us to give up the shrine.
yeah. Yeah, so but anyway, like both sides come out having progressed their story and having moved their plot along, and no one needed to play it, there was no need to rub anyone's nose in it.
Hmm.
Nobody had to job and no one had to play the NPC.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's not always possible because sometimes you do have winners and losers.
Sure, no,
But
absolutely.
but like just the willingness of both sides to make the other people look good. Like, and to know where the boundaries are, and to know, yeah, trying to force that shrine is going to change this from something they're happy to go along with to something that's going to piss them off. Because what, the Silent Hill?
I would
Fritz,
like
don't look
I look at
now. But I think Pyramid Head is outside your window.
God fucking damn it. That'll be typical of Philadelphia.
Bad things happen in Philadelphia.
That's what I
Yeah.
hear. So
Yeah.
one of the things that you mentioned just now was being willing to make the other player look good.
Mm.
I can say that that's a tricky thing the more competitive a game gets, and that's why I think we saw literally none of that during the Siege gameplay, Damara.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, the second you put a prize, a tangible prize,
A PvP win condition, effectively.
yeah, um, that's gonna. I mean,
Part of it was faction composition. I'm not gonna lie.
um,
yeah.
Both in terms of loadout and in terms of general combat experience and in terms of the attitudes of the players.
Uh-huh.
But still, like I
yeah,
watched the Nordvik invasion of the Crownlander castle, and there was no giving the other guy time to shine. There was not even really any giving the other guy time to tie his shoes. They gave them a few hours to put together a barely functional catapult, and then they just stomped them all over the place.
Yeah. Really like a hero. Like I'm the only hero mentality in that
yeah,
fact.
that that main character syndrome stuff. But the
Yeah.
part of the problem I think is, well, it's twofold. When you have the ability to just steamroll someone with no consequences,
Hmm.
it is very hard not to just steamroll someone. Especially like, and it just from a logical, rational playing, like I will win this portion of the game standpoint, but also from like an in character perspective. Like like if I have the chance to steamroll my enemy, why would my character hesitate to steamroll my enemies? And there are ways you can get around that, and there are things you could do. Um, you know, I have contingency plans if we're ever in that position as a faction. Speaking for the Jotunar, um, but it's very hard to turn that off, to kind of turn off that competitive mentality. But I also think that if the sides are evenly matched, it's way more likely to happen.
Yes.
Um,
If you know there's the possibility that the other side could stomp you too, you're probably going to be a bit more willing to allow them a bit of chance to play so that they allow you a bit of a chance to play. But when you know that there's no way on God's green earth that they're going to be able to stop you, you kind of lose the incentive to let them do something cool, because what are they going to do if you don't?
yeah,
They can't force the issue. You've got more fighters with more shields and more training.
and then from the perspective of a fighter, if I'm legit that much better than you, that this is just a rollover for me. Like if there's a skill gap to the point where it's like, and this could be a one-on-one situation or a group-on-group situation. If the skill gap is so extreme that this would just be casual, like I would not even have to exert myself to win this fight. Um, it's real hard pressed for me to make myself look like an idiot to make you look good. Like I'm not gonna lie, like that's an ego. That's like, no, I'm better than this. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
play a buffoon to give someone else's ego a boost.
Yeah. Like having to physically step out of character to make a decision. That's tough. Kind of weird.
Well, it's not even a character thing; it's a Ray thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I
Like
can actually.
like
You know how to fight. Like having to act like you don't know how to fight. That would be weird as fuck.
and like I do remember like the one time I had fun with something like that. Um, I think I told this story already on this podcast, so I'm not going to tell it again. But it was that trial by combat,
Yes. Yep.
yeah, with that fighter who used a small buckler and a dagger. But that was
Oh yeah.
that wasn't me being a buffoon. That was that person was agile enough and good enough at the tumbling aspect that we still made it look good.
Mm-hmm.
Was I slowing myself down? Yeah, absolutely. Was I broadcasting? Yeah, absolutely. But it looked good. And it didn't look like I couldn't fight. It just looked like I was using, you know, it's how people expect a 5 pound steel axe to act. It's not actually how a 5 pound steel axe acts, but it's how people expect it to act.
It's the expectation. Uh,
Yeah.
some of that
Uh,
too comes down to reflex, because as I think about it, yeah, I've definitely fought down in my career, and you slow yourself down a bit, you telegraph more, but the one thing I can never seem to get myself to be able to do is to give them more of a chance on their swing. Like, no matter how much I'm slowing and telegraphing for my strikes, I can never quite stop the parry from being like
yeah.
the parry never slacks no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
Like, I'll let you get away, but ooh, I am not letting you touch me.
Yeah. And I think that's just, in a group context, like I can't imagine I can't imagine how you could slow a warband down from just mulching something. Like, let's imagine, you, me, Quark, two other random orcs, right? We roll up on two people with arming swords who want to stand and fight. Like, unless we are being very casual, like if we're in any sort of hurry, like if this is any sort of combat situation, those people are getting mulched.
Yeah,
100%. That's just going to be like a riding mower and nest of baby bunnies. Um,
it's gonna be like that machine they throw the unwanted chicks in. Just industrial grinder.
um,
The only way we can make a fight like that, we,
oh
we
well,
would
well,
we would just send the other two guys.
well, that's what I would do if it was casual. Like
Right.
if we were just on road patrol and that happened, yeah, no, then it becomes a rite of passage for whoever is lowest person on the totem pole.
Right. Well, and you can make a scene out of that, which is great.
And if they
Um,
if they fuck up, you just send the next one.
yeah. But you're right though, because if those two guys come out in the road and we're like, we're gonna go check on our shrine, and these two step out in the road and say, we're gonna stop you from getting to, no, you're not.
Yeah, that we wouldn't even
Not even
break
a little
stride.
bit.
Yeah, we wouldn't even break stride.
I will drag my spear from your gut as I walk past you.
Yeah, just not going to happen. So that's part of it. There needs to be an incentive to slow down, or at least an incentive. At least it can't be an incentive to not slow down. So that's kind of going to be just. It is what it is. There are
there's a
going.
there's a bit of a disincentive to go full octane all the time because of the type of game it is. Because you're expected to not swing too fast, to not get too wild about things. But I mean, you and I can still kill extremely efficiently without going haymaker.
Yeah, but
And there's plenty of other people who can do the same. So I mean, the game rules themselves have a bit of an effect on that. But yeah, that's an interesting thought. Is what could you do to incentivize, not drawing it out necessarily, but like what could have been done in that siege to make to kind of incentivize the Nordviks to make it look like a fight and not just like, open season on the ice flows.
so if I was commander of the Nordviks, and if I had been able to rein in the competitive instinct, because that is real.
That
Like,
second if is big, yeah, especially like I said before, considering the personality makeup of a lot of the,
uh,
just
Yeah,
from
so
what we knew of the personality makeup of the faction.
yeah.
as like a member of that faction, can confirm there's
So
some
so
fighty boys there.
so this is contingent on having a strong enough personality who fighters will listen to, because those are not always the same thing.
Hmm.
um,
There were plenty of strong personalities at our first game in the Jotunar faction, and I don't think I listened to any of them.
We vaguely listen to Dan.
Well, that's because he was like the in character boss. We
Yeah,
we were supposed to, but if he
yeah.
told me to do something dumb, I didn't. Well, no, I
You would
did
have.
that. I did it the first game because I was still like, he's in charge, so I guess I'll go fight 7 people. But then at later games, like, when you die, you lose your memories. And I'm like, ha ha, I am not going with you to
I
attack
have
a
an
fort
in
full of
character.
60 people.
I have an in character reason not to commit suicide anymore because now my resurrection matters.
Yeah.
But so how I would do it if I were in charge of the Nordvix and I was able to tamp down my competitiveness. What I would have done is I would have had the individual war bands attack the castle in turn, and I would have
Compete
made
for
it.
the honor of being the ones to break the line.
Oh
Oh,
no, I would have let the Crownlanders get up.
Oh,
I would have
fair.
I would have let one squad break the line. Then you have them retreat. Let the Crownlanders get back up, and then do it again, and then do it again with the third group, and that way you're making it a better fight because you're not completely steamrolling them.
yeah.
You're kind of encouraging pushback within your own faction, and spurring your faction to get good. Um, and then from their side, they're probably losing every fight, but they're losing better, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
they're not
because
getting steamrolled.
I watched that fight from the edge of the woods, waiting to call for our counterattack. There just wasn't time. Like
Mm.
literally between the call to attack, you guys didn't even have time to reach my position at the edge of the woods before the Nordvik had broken through.
Yeah,
I
so
don't I don't think there was even an exchange of blows. I think
probably
they just went through.
probably not. So that's how I would have done that. And then from the Crownlander side, that would give them at least a sense of enduring. Like
Hmm.
we got through this. Like we endured this. They kept coming and they kept coming and they kept coming, but we endured it. And if they had any sense of good role play, they'd make a religious fucking ceremony out of this, and they'd be chanting prayers while they did this.
It'd be
Or at least,
very Thermopylae.
oh yeah, oh yeah. It would be Thermopylae as done by the medieval Catholic Church. It would be fucking awesome. But you need someone who has that mindset and who, like, honest to God, like this would have been a place where I shined. If you had put me on the Crownlander's side and in that scenario where I get to deal with multiple waves that are pausing in between to give me a chance to rally, some shit I could do.
Which isn't to say that we always know best and we could do everyone else's job better, but like we're talking about the idea of like a more ideal scenario. And not only that, it, with the understanding that both sides are trying to play so that everyone gets a chance to look cool, you can do that. I
Yeah,
think if either one of us had been thrown in command of the Crownlander force
it
with the
wouldn't have
situation
mattered.
as it was,
It wouldn't have mattered.
it would have been no different, no different, not even a little bit. We
No.
you when you're facing that kind of fight, and with the way the stakes were established, the, the trappings of roleplay are the furthest thing from your mind. I think that the best and I could be wrong. Maybe they thought about it more than it seemed. But like I said, I was watching this whole setup from the edge of the woods, being my spooky self, and I think their best concession to roleplay was building that catapult. But I don't know if that was a roleplay thing or a won't this be cool sort of thing. It's just that the way the sieges were pitched, you weren't thinking about how can I put this in the dressing of my faction and make it a cool event. It was, all right, how do I win this fight?
Oh yeah, 100%. That was a completely competitive element. Um, and it
And we even brought that up, I think, to some game runners while we were at the event, and that I had read the docs before we showed up, and I'm just thinking like you gave all these people a PvP win condition. They're not here to play the game anymore. Well, they're here to play a different game now.
no,
Yeah.
what's really interesting is that in the capture the flag game, minigame that's going to be happening in the second season, they have capped the war parties to 10 people.
Yes.
Oh,
And
that'll be good.
that's a smart move.
Oof.
Because the thing is, like, getting 8 people together to do something is pretty easy.
An 8v10 is not a bad fight.
Yep, and that's exactly what I'm thinking. 8v10, getting a full 10, it's weird how there's a struggle to jump between like 7, 8, and 10. But like, give me 7 that I pick, and I'll take them against. I'll take them against 7. I'll take them against any 10. Give me 7 that I pick, and I'll take them against any 10.
Especially since, if we're talking Damrung, you brought most of the 7 that you would pick.
Yes.
I'll take Tycho and Ryer and Banshee and Quirk.
You're so close to having Fritz, but alas, yeeted out at the last moment.
And maybe Arcadios if we ever drag him out.
Bulgur was saying he might come out.
Oh yeah, I think he was planning on it before the Koof,
Yeah, he
if
was.
I recall.
Maybe next time after Drifa dies, I'll make up a wood boss.
But yeah, but I do love that, because that that gives more of an opportunity, because like we were saying, 7 versus 10 is still a pretty fair fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Better like
6 versus 30, less so.
so yeah,
And that's not a theoretical. That's an actual fight that we had by the numbers on my first time at Damrung was a
Yep.
6v30.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's just not good.
No, you don't win.
Yeah,
You
I
don't
escaped
win.
it, but only just.
Yeah, you don't win. That's all. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to get fucking stomped like that.
It doesn't feel good to get fucking stomped like that, but also it doesn't feel right to have to put out the amount of effort that it takes me to fight that many people at once. Because like I said, I got away, and I don't mind overclocking in a fight. Like, I got a bit of a cardiac condition. Sometimes I can overclock and I got to slow my roll for a bit. I don't mind doing that in a fight. But when I'm in a game where that's like explicitly not supposed to happen, where it's supposed to be like a theatrical, like the fighting is supposed to be more casual, but now I've got to fight, 3 or 4 people with long swords and pole arms, and I've pulled out a pair of knives to stand over the body of the fallen king, and I'm a vertical lawnmower, but I need to leave because I can't reach far enough to get any of these people. Throwing the kind of combinations that you have to do with a pair of long knives to fend off that many reach weapons, it's doable. It's even a little bit fun if I wasn't at a game where that's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, it's very difficult to win within the spirit of the rules.
Well,
Yeah.
and you feel like you're the one breaking the flow and breaking the immersion.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when it's that unbalanced, all like strategy and like trying to think about playing the lift sort of goes out the window. Now you're just in like survival mode.
Oh, I mean, it doesn't, like, you can fight those kind of numbers. Like, it can be fun in a certain mindset, but that mindset is, I have to feel like I am free to use everything I know about fighting and really pull out the stops, and that no one's going to get pissy at me when I start doing some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that I know there's some very strong limiters on what I can do here. Yeah. And we've touched on this in another episode. I think the one talking about, using 2 short weapons.
Yeah.
And just fighting against larger groups in general, is that the more people you have to fight, the less you're playing, and the weirder it feels when you're at these less combat heavy, more campaign style games.
Yeah. And really that gets on the people who are attacking or who have the numbers. And this is something that's just very hard, and that it's going to take a lot of effort on the part of the community to get used to doing. But when you have numbers like that, to not just mob, especially if you're in a campaign game, because being part of a well, no, I'm not going to say that. Being part of a mob that's monkey fucking someone is awesome. um, it's fun to just spank the shit out of someone with a piece of foam on a stick. That's an
Especially
absolute.
when they're trying desperately to call no damage, no damage, no damage.
um, but but yeah, like it's just going to take a lot to basically, oh, you two fight them, and the rest of us are going to move on. Because if I'm doing that, and that's my habit, you two are going to fight them. So now the person who's in the one on the 2-on-1, that's doable. You could play that theatrically. You can have fun with that. But they also have the option of either accepting that or fucking with the main group. And it's like, if you fuck with the main group, then you get mulched.
But you decided on the mulching.
Yeah, but
We did not inflict this upon you. You
you
jumped
stepped
into
into
the
the
mower.
hopper. Yeah. You saw the blade spinning and you jumped in anyway.
You pulled
Yep.
a Tucker and Dale versus Evil there.
um,
Fuck around and find out.
but like I think until that gets to become a habit, or or yeah, until that becomes a habit, it's hard to make those really mismatched combats fun or interesting for both sides. I don't know. It's just like I really do think it's just going to take a lot of concerted effort on the part of the gaming community to get in that mindset where it's you are creating opportunities, and it's the people who have the power in that moment whose really job it is to make that happen. I think in player versus player games.
So I think we've done a pretty good job of going over uh, what makes a good mod, what makes a mod flow. Even in a game that ostensibly doesn't really have mods.
True.
So
Yeah.
I'd call that mission accomplished.
I think so.
Woo.
Fritz, thank you so much for coming on our little podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was really fun. Good to
And,
talk about the wacky bats for a little bit.
and we'll have more guests in upcoming episodes. But for this evening, I'm Tycho. This is Urdok, and these have been Fighting Words.